Ever feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells, trying to appease certain people only to end up drained and questioning yourself? What if I told you there's a way to reclaim your peace without confrontation, a way to become truly unreachable? To those who thrive on your emotional turmoil, are you tired of feeling like your emotional state is a battleground where toxic individuals constantly launch attacks? Imagine a shield, an invisible force field that not only protects you, but actually makes you invisible to those who feed off your chaos and overexplaining. Do you find yourself trapped in endless cycles of explaining, defending, and justifying your worth to people who simply refuse to understand? This isn't just about setting boundaries. It's about mastering an ancient wisdom that transforms you into someone who cannot be manipulated. Welcome to StoicCraft, where we explore timeless wisdom for modern challenges. In this complete guide, we're diving deep into 7 Stoics-inspired psychological boundaries, powerful mental walls that won't just keep toxic people out, they'll make them lose their grip entirely. If you're ready to stop being pulled into the emotional storms of others and start designing your own inner world, this is the strategy you've been searching for. The foundation. Unshakable composure. There's a unique kind of power that makes toxic people deeply uncomfortable. It's not about shouting them down, engaging in heated arguments, or even dramatically walking away. It's about cultivating an unwavering calmness, not a passive indifference, but a profound stoic composure. This composure stems from a conscious refusal to react to emotional bait. Toxic individuals thrive on your reactions. They relentlessly push your buttons, not because they're seeking truth, but because they want to see you flinch, defend yourself, or ideally overreact. The moment you react emotionally, you surrender control. They gain the upper hand. Think about it. Have you noticed how a narcissist instantly shifts blame when confronted? Or how someone passive-aggressive might deliver a seemingly innocent remark, laced with sarcasm that bothers you all day? This isn't random. It's a deliberate form of emotional warfare. Your first and most crucial boundary, the one that establishes the tone for all others, is this: I will not let toxic people determine my emotional state. This might sound deceptively simple, but its impact is revolutionary. The instant you stop reacting, you dismantle their primary control mechanism. You cut off their fuel, and without fuel, the fire of their manipulation simply dies. The Stoics weren't just philosophers who talked about maintaining calm. They rigorously trained for it. As Epictetus wisely stated, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. This profound insight means you always have a choice in how you respond. And that choice is precisely what toxic people despise. They hate it when their guilt trips fail, when their silent treatments no longer trigger your anxiety, and especially when you see through their manipulation without even a flicker of reaction. This isn't about becoming emotionally detached out of fear. It's about achieving mastery through heightened self-awareness. It's the immense power of denying them exactly what they crave. Here's a critical secret. Toxic people don't genuinely seek honesty or resolution. They crave chaos. So when you attempt to reason with someone utterly uninterested in the truth, you're not resolving anything. You're merely stepping into their arena, a space where emotions are weapons and your logic is entirely irrelevant. This is why silence, stillness, and non-reactivity are your ultimate counterstrikes. You're not ignoring reality. You're commanding it. You're communicating without uttering a single word. You no longer have the power to control how I feel. Let's bring this to life with a real-world scenario. Imagine you're in a conversation and a toxic individual sneers, "Oh, I see. You're too good to care now, huh?" Most people would immediately take the bait, feeling an immense pressure to explain, defend, or reassure. But someone who has truly mastered this boundary would pause, take a calming breath, and calmly respond, "Believe whatever you need to." This isn't coldness, it's profound mental freedom. You've just denied them their favorite currency, emotional engagement. You've remained firmly in control without feeling the need to prove, explain, or correct anything. This is emotional intelligence operating at its highest level. So, how do you train this vital boundary? It's not a one-time decision. It's a muscle you consciously build, especially when it feels uncomfortable. Try these practical steps. Pause before you respond. Even a mere 3 seconds of silence can interrupt a reflexive reaction and completely shift the power dynamic. Breathe into your body. Get out of your head and into your physical presence. Feel your feet firmly on the ground and actively slow your heartbeat. Internally name the trigger. Recognize it for what it is. This is emotional bait. I will not take it. Speak less, watch more. Your true power lies in your observation, not in your constant need to defend yourself. With consistent practice, this approach will become second nature. People will try to provoke you, and you'll simply smile, not because you don't care, but because you no longer need to care. The deeper truth here is that emotional non-reactivity isn't about becoming numb. It's about becoming selectively responsive. You still feel, you still care, but you consciously choose where to invest your precious energy. This boundary is incredibly powerful because it doesn't diminish your humanity. It makes you a human with clear direction and purpose. You stop living at the mercy of other people's emotions and instead begin actively designing your own inner world. And in that sanctuary, toxic people simply don't belong. Silence as a strategic power move. When you go silent on someone who thrives on attention, you're not just walking away. You're effectively cutting off their oxygen supply. In a world perpetually addicted to noise, silence becomes an act of rebellion. And for toxic individuals, silence is nothing short of psychological warfare. Why? Because their entire manipulative game hinges on your response, your explanations, your anger, your desperate need to be understood. When you steadfastly refuse to play that game, when you meet provocation with absolute stillness, you strip away the very thing they need to control you, your emotional engagement. Let's be crystal clear. Silence is not a sign of weakness. It's not a form of passive avoidance. It is a conscious, deliberate refusal to be dragged into their emotional vortex. It powerfully communicates, "I see you. I understand exactly what you're attempting to do, and I am not participating." This is one of the most sophisticated forms of emotional intelligence because it fiercely protects your peace without ever sacrificing your dignity. So what do toxic people truly fear most? Here's the brutal truth. They aren't afraid of confrontation. They are terrified of disconnection. They rely on having constant access to your mind. They want to know your feelings, your thoughts, and precisely which buttons still trigger you. Your silence becomes their absolute worst nightmare, because when you stop explaining yourself, they are forced to confront the stark reality. I no longer have access to this person's reality, and as someone who thrives on control, that realization is devastating. The psychology behind this is fascinating. Silence removes mirroring. Narcissistic or manipulative individuals depend entirely on seeing themselves reflected in your reactions. If they hurt you and you scream, they feel a sense of importance. If you cry, they feel powerful. If you argue, they feel superior. But when you remain utterly still, when your facial expression doesn't change, when you say absolutely nothing, they begin to unravel, because now they are left alone with their own thoughts. And toxic minds despise silence because in that quiet space they are forced to face themselves. Consider a real-life example. Imagine being gaslighted in a conversation. You're too sensitive. I never said that. You know it's false, and your instinct is to vigorously defend yourself. But instead of debating, you simply look them directly in the eyes, maintain your silence, and calmly walk away. In that precise moment, you haven't just protected your peace. You've shattered their illusion of control without lifting a single finger. That, my friends, is spiritual discipline in action. Not every battle is yours to fight, especially the ones specifically designed to drain your energy. Silence in this context is a shield, not a sword. People often mistakenly equate silence with passive aggression. However, in Stoicism, silence is containment. It's the profound ability to feel anger without being consumed by it, to experience pain without becoming reactive, and to firmly hold your ground without needing to dominate or win. It's a powerful declaration. I don't owe you my energy, my presence, or my words. That is true self-mastery. How do you build this silent force within yourself? Know when to stop talking. Not every misunderstanding or accusation requires your detailed explanation. Let silence stretch. Resist the urge to quickly fill the void. Allow them to feel the discomfort of it. Watch your body language. Maintain a still posture. Keep your breath. Calm and avoid any flinching or nervous gestures. Exit with clarity. Simply walking away can be a complete and powerful sentence in itself. Use strategic pauses in heated moments. A deliberate 5-second pause can make you appear 10 times more powerful and in control. This isn't about playing games. It's about commanding respect without ever having to beg for it. The inner game of detachment is crucial here. Silence without inner strength is merely avoidance. But silence applied with clear intention, that is liberation. It powerfully signals to the world, I choose what affects me. I choose who gains access to my emotional space. You do this not to punish others, but to diligently protect your mental clarity, your emotional regulation, and your invaluable peace of mind. Detachment is not indifference. It's the conscious choice not to lose yourself in people who have already lost themselves. Why does this work so effectively and hurt them so profoundly? When you go quiet, they can no longer guilt-trip you, manipulate your reactions, or feel superior through your emotional outbursts. Instead, they are left feeling unseen, powerless, and utterly irrelevant. And for someone addicted to control, irrelevance is a form of psychological death. You didn't fight them. You didn't insult them. You simply stopped showing up for their performance. And that, my friend, is how you truly win. Strategic unavailability, reclaiming your access. In our hyper-connected age, constant accessibility has ironically become a trap. People expect you to be emotionally available, digitally responsive, and mentally on call at all times. They demand immediate access to your mind, your energy, your focus. And toxic people, being opportunists, expertly exploit this expectation. They blur lines, relentlessly test boundaries, and interpret your availability as an explicit permission to invade your space. But here's a timeless Stoic truth. You lose power the very moment you become too easy to reach. Access is control. Let's be brutally honest. The more available you are, the more manipulators learn your rhythms. They meticulously study your responses. They then shape your reality through strategic, persistent intrusion. Think of that narcissist who consistently calls when they know you're busiest, or that drama-filled friend who trauma dumps right before your crucial day. They don't respect your time because you haven't consciously taught them to. Boundaries aren't merely about what you say no to. They are fundamentally about what you stop giving instant access to. The Stoic approach advocates for strategic withdrawal. The Stoics were never obsessed with being everywhere for everyone. They firmly believed in conscious presence, not endless performance. They understood that your energy is sacred, your time is finite, and your peace is the absolute bedrock of your clarity. So they diligently practiced intentional withdrawal, not out of ego or spite, but to remain firmly anchored in their inner world. When you begin to intentionally reduce your emotional availability, something truly incredible begins to happen. Toxic people start to panic, not necessarily because you're gone, but because they no longer have any control over when you show up. A vivid real-life example. Perhaps you used to immediately respond to every angry, demanding text message. Now, having consciously built this boundary, you read it, take a deep breath, and choose to respond hours later or perhaps not at all. At first, they will likely escalate. They'll send more texts, maybe even attempt to guilt-trip you for being cold or selfish. But eventually, a realization dawns on them. They're no longer reacting on me terms. And that, precisely, is when the power shift undeniably begins. Because you are no longer emotionally available, you are mentally sovereign. Let's clarify. Unavailability does not equate to neglect or isolation. Being unavailable doesn't mean becoming a hermit, cutting yourself off from the world, or rejecting all connection. It means you stop exhaustively explaining yourself to those who consistently distort the truth. You stop attending arguments you never agreed to participate in. You stop offering your emotional presence as if it were a public utility available to all. Your attention becomes something that is earned, not simply expected. It's the profound difference between a common candle in a hallway and a carefully guarded flame within a sacred sanctuary. How do you effectively enforce this boundary without feeling consumed by guilt? Here's how to cultivate strategic unavailability with confidence. Delay your response. Just because someone reaches out doesn't obligate you to reply instantly. Schedule your availability. Intentionally protect periods for deep work or recovery. Time, being deliberate about when you engage with others. Don't explain your silence. You do not owe anyone an emotional invoice for every quiet moment you choose. Limit digital access. Mute toxic message threads. Utilize do not disturb functions. And block individuals if necessary. Use clear, decisive language. Saying, "I'm not available for that," is powerful, clear, and final. This isn't cruelty. It is self-respect and assertive action. When you become unavailable by choice, a significant psychological shift occurs. Toxic people can no longer hijack your energy, predict your reactions, or manipulate your availability. And what will they do? They will undoubtedly label you as cold, distant, or arrogant. But recognize this as their projection. What they are really saying is, "You are no longer emotionally dependent on my approval," and that terrifies me. Remember the power of rarity. What is rare becomes valuable. What is always available becomes expected, then often resented, and finally, exploited. This boundary helps you become rare again. And in that rarity, you earn profound respect from the right people, and still fear in manipulators, and safeguard yourself from emotional chaos. You are no longer a sponge absorbing other people's drama. You become a clear mirror, reflecting back only what genuinely aligns with your peace. Stop explaining yourself. Stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Read that sentence again and let it truly sink in. Because one of the most utterly exhausting traps toxic people set is convincing you that you owe them a reason, a justification, an emotional receipt for every boundary you choose to set. If you fall into that trap, you will spend your entire life endlessly negotiating your peace with individuals who never had any intention of respecting it in the first place. Why are explanations a subtle form of control? On the surface, explaining yourself seems benign, even polite. However, in toxic dynamics, explanation transforms into an insidious opportunity for manipulation. They will ask, "Why didn't you answer me? Why are you being so cold? Why can't we talk this out like adults?" But these questions are not genuinely seeking truth. They are seeking access. The more you explain, the more they will twist your words. They interrupt, gaslight, reframe, and minimize. They skillfully plant seeds of doubt within your mind and then watch you unravel from within. This is not a conversation. It is control in disguise. A Stoic mind does not require the entire world to get it. It merely needs to know what is true for itself. When you make a choice based on your core values, your inner clarity, and your profound peace, you don't need to transform it into a courtroom drama. You simply act. That is quiet confidence, spiritual discipline, and emotional intelligence in powerful motion. Understanding the guilt loop and how to break it is crucial. Here's what toxic people relentlessly count on: your inherent guilt reflex. They know that if they press the right emotional button, you will cave. You will over-explain. You will second-guess yourself. You will soften your stance. They don't genuinely want the truth. They want leverage. So the next time you establish a boundary and feel that insistent urge to explain yourself, pause. Take a deep breath and firmly remind yourself, This boundary is not up for discussion. Consider a personal example. Imagine you're dealing with a controlling ex who repeatedly texts you, "Why are you ignoring me? I just want closure." You feel that overwhelming urge to respond, to be kind, to end things on good terms. But deep down, you know the truth. This person never honored your peace. They don't genuinely want closure. They want a reaction to feed on. So, instead of explaining yourself, you say nothing, or you simply state, "I'm not available for this conversation. Take care." No defense, no guilt, no further contact. That is not cruelty. That is high-performance emotional detachment. No is a complete sentence. Here's a concept that fundamentally flips the entire game. No is not the beginning of a debate. It is the definitive end of a transaction. You do not need to explain why you don't want to engage, why you don't feel safe, or why you've changed your mind. You can simply say, "I'm not comfortable with this," or "This isn't something I want to participate in," or even just, "No, thank you." And then stop. Silence is precisely where your power consolidates. It is the sacred space where manipulation effectively dies. How do you build this crucial boundary? Pre-commit to your no. Decide ahead of time exactly where your line is, so you won't buckle under pressure. Speak briefly, calmly, and with finality. Use a tone devoid of apology and leave no room for negotiation. Expect pushback and say nothing more. Allow their discomfort to remain squarely with them. Journal your triggers. Note where you feel guilt starting to creep in. That's precisely where you are most vulnerable to being controlled. Practice internal validation. Constantly remind yourself, "My peace does not require their approval." This is the very foundation of self-mastery, a foundation most people never build because they are too addicted to being liked. The mental shift from approval to autonomy is profound. When you stop explaining, something transformative happens. You reclaim vast amounts of mental bandwidth. You stop overthinking how you are perceived. You stop laboriously crafting perfect sentences to avoid being misunderstood. Instead, you begin living from the inside out, rooted firmly in your principles, not in popular opinion. This is the Stoic ideal. What you think of me is none of my business. That's not indifference. That's radical emotional independence. Toxic people will react, and that's a good thing. Here's what you can expect when you stop explaining yourself. They'll accuse you of being cold, saying things like, "You used to care more," or "You're acting different." Let them say it, because what they are truly communicating is, "You are no longer emotionally dependent on my approval, and that makes me irrelevant." Let them grapple with their irrelevance. It is not your burden to break the predictability. Trap toxic people don't just hurt you. They meticulously study you. They observe your reactions, catalog your patterns, the nuances in your voice, the subtle shifts in your mood, and the exact moment you snap. Then they expertly use this information against you. This is the very core of emotional manipulation. If they can predict you, they can control you. But when your reactions become unpredictable, when you move with calm detachment instead of emotional reflex, they lose their script. You become unreadable. And unreadable, my friend, is unbreakable. Let's dissect this predictability trap. Toxic manipulators adore patterns because patterns breed predictability, and predictability grants them control. For example, if they know a guilt trip consistently makes you cave, they will deploy it. If they know raising their voice elicits a response, they will raise it. If they know crying convinces you to stay, tears will appear precisely on cue. You might believe you are dealing with someone genuinely in pain, but you're not. You are dealing with someone who has memorized your emotional buttons. Phrases like, "You're too sensitive," "You never listen to me," or "I guess you just don't care anymore," are not chaos. They are calculated strategy. And this strategy only works if you continue reacting in the same predictable way. The Stoic advantage lies in becoming unpredictable. The Stoics didn't merely train themselves to feel less. They rigorously trained themselves to react less. Because every time you react impulsively, you hand over valuable data, your emotional blueprint, your fears, your insecurities, your soft spots. But when you respond calmly, or ideally not at all, when you remain firmly rooted in logic rather than emotion, you become profoundly unreadable. And unreadable people are absolutely terrifying to manipulators. Why? Because their entire manipulative game hinges on your predictability. Break that predictability, and you shatter their entire system. Consider a real-life illustration. Imagine someone consistently presses you with the same emotional play. They blame you, you defend, they escalate, you panic, they apologize, you forgive, rinse and repeat. Now, picture this. They blame you, you pause, you say nothing. You go completely silent. No defense, no argument, no explanation. They escalate again, louder this time, still nothing. Suddenly they are the only one talking. They are exposed. They are alone in the chaos they themselves created. That silence, that unpredictability is not passivity. It is psychological dominance. How do you build this powerful boundary? You don't need to become emotionally cold. You just need to become less obvious in your reactions. Here's how. Audit your patterns. What do you invariably say or do when you're guilted? What is your emotional reflex to anger or sadness? Create a new default. Pause before you speak. Count to 5. Allow the initial emotion to pass through you. Respond with calm curiosity. Instead of reacting defensively, ask questions. What makes you say that? Or what do you need from me right now? Release the need to be understood. You don't need to clarify everything. Let them stew in their misunderstanding. That's where their illusion breaks. Train in detachment. Meditate. Journal, mentally rehearse maintaining calm under pressure. Remember, calm is not just a mood. It's a powerful weapon. The psychological shift is monumental. When you cease being predictable, toxic people begin to second-guess their manipulations, lose emotional leverage, and ultimately unravel under the weight of their own tactics. You are no longer feeding their game. You are observing the game from the outside. And that precisely is where real control truly begins. The less they know what you'll do next, the less they can script your downfall. This isn't about pretending. It's about rigorous training. Stoicism teaches that you don't need to outwardly display every emotion you feel. Why? Because in a world that weaponizes emotion, your stillness becomes your impenetrable shield. Predictability is easy. Stillness is power. Let them wonder what you're thinking. Let them frantically try to guess your next move. Let them get frustrated, trying to provoke a reaction from you. You are no longer a mere player in their emotional chess game. You have become the entire board. The profound power of being unpredictable cannot be overstated. When you break your ingrained emotional habits, here's what happens. You become untriggerable. You earn genuine, quiet respect. You render manipulators powerless, and they absolutely despise that, because the moment they can no longer anticipate your actions, they realize they never truly had you, and that profound realization will haunt them. The power of no reaction. Let's get one fundamental thing straight. Not everything that provokes you deserves your attention. In fact, the most potent reaction you can deploy in a toxic dynamic is no reaction at all. Why? Because toxic people don't feed off the truth. They feed off your energy, your frustration, your confusion, your anger, your desperate need to explain, to defend, to be seen. So when you deliberately cut off that energy source, when you respond with profound silence instead of sparks, you don't just remove yourself from their game. You utterly flip the entire board. Every interaction with a manipulator is an energy exchange. You give emotion, they take control. You offer defense, they seize advantage. It's not a genuine conversation. It's a cold transaction. And your emotions are the very currency they demand. So what happens when you go completely still? You abruptly end the transaction. You close the emotional bank, and suddenly they are bankrupt. Emotional intelligence does not equate to endless emotional availability. Here's a common misconception. People believe that having emotional intelligence means being perpetually available, always responding with empathy, always explaining, comforting, and clarifying. But that's not genuine emotional intelligence. That's emotional servitude. True emotional intelligence lies in discerning when to engage, when to detach, and when your silence communicates more honesty and power than any words ever could. In toxic dynamics, silence is not passive. It is precision warfare. When they push, you simply do not move. Imagine a narcissist relentlessly trying to provoke you. You've changed. I can't believe you're this cold now. I guess you never really cared. You feel that overwhelming urge to correct the record, to passionately defend your name. But instead, you say nothing. No reply, no change in your facial expression, no hint of emotional charge, just absolute nothingness. To a manipulator, this isn't silence. This is psychological starvation, and it utterly terrifies them because their entire power dynamic depends on you feeding them with reactions. No reaction equals no fuel. No fuel equals no fire. Consider a powerful true story. A woman once shared with me how her narcissistic ex would send her 10, sometimes even 30, messages a day after she initiated no contact. They weren't angry messages, but cunning emotional hooks. I miss you. I'm broken without you. You always understood me. Please just talk to me. She almost responded dozens of times, but then something profound clicked inside her. She realized none of this is about love. It's entirely about control. So she didn't block him. She didn't reply. She simply left the messages unread. 3 days later, he sent her this final message. You're cruel. You're heartless. You're not who I thought you were. And in that moment, she knew beyond a shadow of a doubt her silence had broken him. Not because she sought revenge, but because she had successfully reclaimed her inner peace and steadfastly refused to trade it for his fleeting validation. Why is Stoic silence often more deadly than rage? People fear silence more deeply than confrontation because silence leaves them utterly alone with themselves. And manipulators simply cannot stand that. They are addicted to external chaos precisely so they don't have to confront their own internal disorder. So when you go quiet, you force them to sit with their own projections. You compel them to question their own distorted image. You force them to finally see that they are no longer in control. This is the core Stoic mindset. I don't need to win the argument. I just need to win myself back. How do you train this no-reaction muscle? Make no mistake, this requires immense discipline. Your nervous system is hardwired to react, but that's because you've been trained to survive, not to transcend. Here's how to build it. Breathe before reacting. Just 3 deep, conscious breaths before any response can completely shift everything. Name the game. Ask yourself, is this a real need or a manipulation? If it's the latter, go quiet. Embrace the discomfort. Silence will feel profoundly wrong at first. That's your trauma bond screaming, not your authentic truth. Create a detachment ritual. After a trigger, go for a walk, write in your journal, or move the emotion somewhere safe. Visualize yourself as a mountain, still grounded and utterly unmoved by any wind or weather. You do not have to answer every insult. You do not have to correct every lie. You do not have to meet chaos with commentary. Your silence powerfully communicates. I see you, but I know. Longer belong to you. Here are crucial reframes to remember. Silence is not avoidance. It is mastery. Not reacting is how I meticulously protect my energy. They are not worth a rise in my blood pressure. Every time you choose silence, you are powerfully reinforcing one profound truth. Inner peace is infinitely greater than external approval. No reaction is the ultimate psychological boundary. Words can be twisted. Tone can be manipulated. Reactions can be used against you. But silence is untouchable. Silence is clean. Silence is bulletproof. And when your silence becomes consistent, they will stop testing you because the lesson has been unequivocally learned. This person can no longer be moved. This person is no longer mine to manipulate. Controlled exposure. Guarding your sacred self, let's be absolutely clear about something important. You are not obligated to display your full self to every person you encounter. Your energy, your deepest truths, your dreams, your vulnerabilities, they are sacred. But the moment you start handing them out indiscriminately, you lose something priceless: power. Toxic people thrive on access. Not just physical access, but profound emotional access. They meticulously study your fears. They memorize your soft spots. They will even weaponize your own story against you. That's why one of the most stoic and strategically vital boundaries you can ever cultivate is this: controlled exposure. Not everyone deserves to see all of you. Why do toxic people demand your full download? Here's how it operates. The more they know about you, the simpler it becomes for them to manipulate you. They quickly learn what triggers your guilt, What makes you second-guess yourself and what makes you desperately crave being liked? Toxic people are essentially psychological hackers, and your overexposure is their backdoor access. When you overshare too soon, especially with those you haven't truly tested, you are essentially handing them a detailed manual on how to control you. But when you practice emotional minimalism, you become unreadable. And unreadable people, my friend, are ungovernable. Emotional intelligence is, at its heart, selective exposure. Many people mistakenly confuse openness with authenticity. But let's be honest, authenticity isn't about full transparency. It's about profound discernment. The Stoics never advocated for wearing your heart on your sleeve. They practiced a measured presence. They intuitively knew how to be sincere without making themselves vulnerable to predators. You can be kind and private, warm and guarded, genuine and strategic. Just because something is true doesn't mean it needs to be said. Consider a real-world scenario. You have a coworker who seems a little too interested in your personal life. At first, it seems innocent enough, so how's your family? What are you working on after hours? You answer openly. But the very next week, that same information is spun and used against you. They accidentally mention your struggles too. Your boss. They laugh about your side hustle with other colleagues. You feel exposed, violated. But the real mistake wasn't necessarily trusting them. It was overexposing yourself before you had truly tested them. That moment teaches you a painful but crucial Stoic lesson. Not everyone is ready for the truth of you, and some never will be. One of the most powerful mindset shifts you can adopt is this: you are a layered being, and not every layer should be readily available to everyone. Let's break it down into 3 tiers of access. Public access, reserved for casual interactions and polite friendliness. Tested trust, information slowly offered, based on consistent behavior, demonstrated safety, and genuine emotional maturity. Sacred inner circle. This tier is reserved exclusively for those who have proven unwavering loyalty and respect over a significant period of time. The boundary of controlled exposure means you consciously know what to share, with whom to share it, and when to confidently walk away without ever needing to explain why you're overexposing yourself. Ask yourself these vital questions. Do I feel drained after conversations with certain people? Do I catch myself revealing things simply to connect or feel accepted? Do others know more about me than I know about them? If you answer yes to any of these, you are bleeding emotional energy, and it is time to recalibrate. How do you build this boundary without appearing cold or distant? You don't have to shut down completely, but you absolutely need to shift your default mode from open access to intentional release. Here's how. Delay disclosure. Take your time to carefully assess someone's emotional maturity and trustworthiness before revealing anything truly personal. Mirror before you share. Pay close attention to how much someone shares about themselves. Before you offer your own truths, use ambiguity strategically. You don't have to lie, just don't over-explain. I'm working on some personal goals is often enough. Observe how they treat others' secrets. If they readily gossip to you, they will undoubtedly gossip about you. Always be selective with vulnerability. Vulnerability is incredibly powerful, but only when shared within truly safe containers. This isn't manipulation. It's a profound spiritual discipline. When you master this boundary, here's what changes. You become unreadable to manipulators. You become mysterious and unappealing to energy vampires. You become incredibly magnetic to genuinely emotionally intelligent people. Why? Because your deliberate restraint signals self-mastery. And self-mastery is exceedingly rare. Rare is valuable, and valuable is respected. Always remember this. You don't owe anyone full access to your soul. In a world of constant oversharing, your chosen silence is sacred. In a culture obsessed with instant intimacy, your discernment is truly revolutionary. You don't have to fake small talk. You don't have to meet trauma with trauma. You don't have to bleed emotionally just to feel seen. You can fiercely protect your essence. You can remain whole. You can consciously choose who gets to know what, and in doing so, you reclaim the most powerful truth of all. I am not for everyone, and that is my strength. The art of redirection, there's a silent, often underestimated skill that most truly powerful people possess. It's not loud. It's not aggressive. It doesn't require winning arguments or crushing opponents. It is simply the profound ability to redirect the conversation, to redirect the energy, to redirect the focus without ever lowering your own standards. The psychological game manipulators play is all about hooking your attention. They provoke, they guilt trip, they drop subtle jabs and loaded questions. So you think you're better than everyone now, huh? Why are you acting distant? Oh, so you just don't care anymore? These are not genuine questions. They are insidious traps. Each one is carefully designed to pull you into a pre-written script, a psychological performance where they are the victim and you are cast as the villain who must now explain, justify, and soften your stance. But here's the unvarnished Stoic truth. The moment you begin explaining yourself to someone who is utterly committed to misunderstanding you, you have already lost the frame. Stoic detachment manifests as the power of redirection. A Stoic does not win arguments in the conventional sense. A Stoic simply refuses to engage on terms that cost them their inner peace. And that, precisely, is what redirection is all about. It's not about denying the current moment, nor is it about suppressing your truth. It's about calmly and resolutely refusing to play someone else's game, instead of defensively saying, "I didn't mean it like that. You're twisting my words again." You calmly state, "I'm not here to argue over intentions. I'm here to grow." Instead of, "No, I'm not ignoring you. I've just been busy," you assert, "I manage my time based on what protects my peace." This response is short, clear, and forms a closed loop. There's no emotional payoff for the manipulator, no entry point for chaos. Let's dissect the art of redirection with concrete examples. Situation 1. The passive-aggressive guilt trip them. Must be nice to ignore everyone and live in your own little world, huh? Weak response. "I'm not ignoring you. I've just been busy. Don't take it personally." Stoic redirection. "I protect my space. It's nothing personal, just essential." Situation 2. The gaslighter them. "You're too sensitive." "I was just joking." Weak response. "It didn't feel like a joke. You always say things that hurt." Stoic redirection. "Respect isn't a joke to me. That's my standard." Situation 3. the one who demands an explanation for your peace them. You've changed. You're not as available anymore. Weak response. Yeah, I've just had a lot on my plate. I guess. Stoic redirection. I've grown. My priorities reflect that. Every redirection accomplishes two crucial things. First, it reclaims your emotional authority. Second, it firmly closes the door on manipulation with quiet confidence. Why does redirection work so effectively? Psychologically, redirection starves toxic people of their most coveted craving, your reactivity. Reacting is surrender. Redirecting is strategic mastery. When you redirect, you maintain control of the frame. You choose the energy of the interaction. You steer the moment towards a higher vibration, or you walk away completely. Toxic people absolutely detest this. Why? Because they no longer get to define who you are through their distorted lens. They are now forced to sit with the mirror you've handed them, one that reflects their own chaos squarely back at them. Building the redirection muscle, like any boundary, requires consistent practice. Here's how to strengthen it. Pause before responding. Stillness is power. Do not react on impulse. Always breathe first. Memorize go-to redirects. Have phrases ready, such as, "That's not a conversation I'm open to. I'm not explaining myself again. Let's not turn this into drama," or "I value calm." Stay firm, not defensive. Redirection is not combat. It's composure delivered with clarity. Don't over-explain your redirect. The less you say, the more powerful it becomes. Utilize eye contact and a calm tone. Your body language powerfully reinforces your boundaries. Consider a personal shift moment. One of our community members once shared, "I used to get completely sucked into emotional arguments with my narcissistic sister. She'd twist everything, until I was defending myself for things I never even did." She continued, "One day I simply said, 'This isn't a conversation I want to continue,' and I walked out. That moment changed everything. That wasn't weakness. That was strategic disengagement. And sometimes, the most intelligent move is to simply not play the game at all. The philosophical truth is that freedom lies in frame control. The Stoics understood something that modern psychology has unequivocally confirmed. You are not truly free if you do not control your emotional frame. Anyone who can consistently make you react controls you. Anyone who can shift your mood owns your peace. Anyone who can bait you into over-explaining is robbing you of your dignity. But when you master the profound art of redirection, you become untouchable by petty manipulation, immune to gaslighting, and firmly centered in your values, not their approval. This is not merely a technique. It is a transformative inner shift. Your presence is your boundary. There's a fundamental Stoic law that governs every single relationship you're in. You don't get what you deserve. You get what you tolerate. People do not primarily listen to your words. They intently watch your patterns. If you consistently forgive betrayal, they will betray again. If you respond to manipulation with softness, they will only sharpen their games. If you stay after being disrespected, you have, in essence, taught them that they do not need to respect you. Let that sink in deeply. Your very presence is a classroom, and you are teaching others how to treat you every single day. We all follow an invisible rule book, whether we're aware of it or not. Your behavior consistently writes that rule book, and toxic people read that rule book exceptionally well. They don't ask, how do they want to be treated? They ask, what do they allow? If you tolerate subtle insults, backhanded compliments, cold shoulders, or hot and cold affection, they learn that this is your threshold. They don't need to overtly cross a line. They simply learn how to skillfully dance around it perfectly. This is precisely why boundaries are not merely what you say. They are what you enforce without uttering a single word. Stoicism emphasizes that your presence itself is your boundary. The ancient Stoics didn't talk extensively about boundaries in the modern sense. They lived them. They carried themselves with a presence that powerfully communicated, my time is valuable, my energy is sacred, my peace is non-negotiable. Not because they were loud or aggressive, but because they were profoundly clear in their demeanor. When you carry yourself like a person who is deeply rooted in self-respect, you don't need to explicitly say, I have boundaries. The room subtly adjusts. The tone of conversations shifts. The energy recalibrates around you. That isn't ego. That's quiet, undeniable authority. The kind of authority toxic people simply cannot manipulate. This concept is often called peace ecology. People mirror what you reflect. Human behavior is incredibly responsive and adaptive. People calibrate to what you project, not merely what you request. If you consistently make yourself overly available, they will eventually stop valuing your time. If you tolerate emotional chaos, they will inevitably bring more drama into your life. If you consistently break your own rules, they will never, ever follow them. But if you embody calm, you invite calm. If you demonstrate consistency, you attract respect. If you radiate discipline, people will either raise their own standards to meet yours, or they will simply leave. And either outcome, frankly, is a win. Consider a real-world example, the empath who stopped shrinking. One woman in our community had always been the understanding one. Her sister constantly manipulated her, crying when caught, exploding when questioned, and going silent when she didn't get her way. This woman would always apologize, even when she wasn't in the wrong. Until one day, she simply didn't. Her sister accused her. I guess you don't care about family anymore. The woman calmly replied, I care enough to stop enabling dysfunction. Then she said nothing more. No over-explaining, no elaborate emotional dance. Her silence, her firm posture, her absolute stillness. It finally broke the pattern. Why? Because her presence, at long last, communicated what her words never could. You can't reach me through guilt anymore. Leaving is a powerful form of teaching. Sometimes the greatest lesson you will ever impart is the moment you calmly walk away without anger. When someone loses access to you, not in rage, not in revenge, but in quiet, self-assured composure, they are forced to confront something they never expected, that you genuinely meant it. Your boundary was real, and their behavior has tangible consequences. You don't need to convince them of anything. Your absence becomes the very consequence they never saw coming. To master this profound presence power shift, audit your energy leaks. Identify where you are being drained but choosing to remain silent. Speak with action, not just words. Instead of saying, don't talk to me like that, simply disengage. Let people feel your distance. Do not explain it. Allow the silence to be the teacher. Be unapologetically unavailable for chaos. You owe no one access to your precious mental space. Replace people who cost you peace with habits that build peace. Your presence should be surrounded by alignment, not perpetual survival. Inner power is undeniably greater than external approval. This is the ultimate Stoic boundary. You no longer need to be liked to feel valuable. You no longer chase connection at the devastating cost of your clarity. You would rather be misunderstood in profound peace than loved in toxic dysfunction. And that monumental shift will dismantle toxic dynamics faster than any confrontation ever could. Because it sends one message, loud and clear: I respect myself too much to let you teach me how little you respect me. They once thought they could control you with confusion, wear you down with guilt, and break you with silent treatment. But you, my friend, have outgrown their game. Not by shouting, not by fighting, but by diligently building a mind they could no longer manipulate. You didn't just walk away from the toxic. You walked back home to your peace, your power, and your unwavering principles. Because here's the timeless truth. Most people never learn that boundaries aren't walls. They are, in fact, bridges to your highest self. And when you master these 7 psychological boundaries, you stop managing chaos and finally start commanding your life with clarity, courage, and profound calm. So, let them wonder why you've changed. Let them question why they can no longer access you. Let your silence become the loudest, most undeniable boundary of all. Because now you don't need to prove your worth. You simply live it. If this message resonated deeply within you, don't just scroll away. Re-watch these 7 boundaries. Share this with someone you know who is still trapped in emotional warfare. And most importantly, subscribe to StoicCraft if you are truly ready to live with unshakable clarity and stoic power every single day. Because on this channel, we don't just talk about self-mastery, we practice it in silence, and we let the results echo for themselves.